Strauchnie!
Mick Malthouse, he said to me once, he goes, Collingwood supporters will come up to me and say, like, almost a bit angry and kind of saying, why aren't you playing Strauchnie? They think there's a superstar in the seconds, an overweight superstar in the seconds, who I'm not playing. Yeah, they asked me to do the project because I knew Hughesy was leaving. It was a great chair for a comedian, I thought. I enjoyed it. I got to interview absolute heroes. And he goes, okay, so what's the idea? And we're like, oh, this doesn't feel right.
No.
And as soon as we told him, no, and he just stormed out.
Today we've got one of the funniest blokes in Aussie TV, stand-up legend, Mr. Peter Helliar. Welcome to the dos&d show.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Sit down, please.
Big live audience. Yeah.
It's not quite the project. We're mate, very excited to have you here.
I've been banging on, just asking to come on. Finally, you're relenting. Your standards have been lowered. 5 years in, you finally let me in.
Oh, well, the truth is we've just been annoying you, just begging you to come on. But we finally got you. But I don't know if we mentioned this before, but we were saying this morning we go and have a kind of day coffee and we realised that the first ever stand-up gig that we went to together was Mr. Pete Helliar. And
right?
We're trying to work out the year. What do you reckon? With
2014, 15?
Yeah, Comedy Festival.
Yeah, we were late to the gig.
Oh, did I make mention of it?
You didn't.
You didn't. And so it was his fault though. So Dos said to us, basically, it was another one of our mates were involved, and was it a present or something? I can't remember. Anyway, we all decided to go, and
Yeah, it was a present.
and the time was 7:30 start. And Dos convinced us. He said, "Oh, he won't start at 7:30. He'll probably start at 8 o'clock." So we're just like wandering in at like 7:35, 7:40, and the place is packed, and we could just see 3 seats near the front, and we're like, "Oh, we're gonna get absolutely roasted here." But luckily, he left us alone, so we're very grateful for that.
Well, you now working in comedy, so I'm glad I didn't turn you against the industry. But no, festival. When you're at a festival, because I know what you mean. You go to a movie or something that starts half an hour later, or you go to see a band and they're on stage late. But the comedy festival, they're very adamant that you know. Sometimes you do get delayed because a comic will run late or crowds or whatever. But yeah, generally you got to start on time.
You've obviously got the 2 podcasts going at the moment. Make Me Good at Golf.
Yep.
That's taking up a lot of your time at the moment.
Absolutely.
How's the golf game?
It's improving. It's improving. So it's myself, Damien Fleming, and Lemo. Flem's he's an ex-Australian cricketer. He's actually pretty good. He's at 6.5,
Wow.
which is good. I got my first handicap. I started at 25. I'm drifting out at 29, but I think I've anchored. I think I'm coming back the other way, and it's good. I was supposed to play during the week with Flem, because we it takes up a lot of time because we're recording episodes for the podcast, and then we're also playing golf to feed the podcast and the content, but also just to get good at golf. Like we got to, and before I worked out if I was going to press go on doing a podcast about golf, I had that conversation with myself going, do you actually have time for this? You need to commit to it. And I thought, no, let's do it. I did when I approached my wife about, me starting a golf podcast. I was like a Shark Tank contestant who was not completely convinced of their product. I was like, I think about starting a golf podcast. What do you think? But she's very supportive, so we're doing that. But I was supposed to play this week, or last Thursday, and it was a bit hot. We knew it was going to be hot, but that was okay. It was myself, Damien Fleming, and Sam Taunton, a good mate of mine. And Flem had a 4th guest that he didn't. I wasn't sure if he was being cagey or that he just hadn't mentioned who it was. And he gives me a call. Yeah, we're due to play in like an hour and 40 or something. And he gives me a call and says, "Oh, it's pretty windy today. Do you think we should play?" I was like, "Oh, I'm okay. I mean, it's not really windy where I am. Maybe check the course." So he rings up the course and they say, "Yeah, it's actually it's going to be pretty tough out there today, So he rings back and goes, "Okay, we're going to pull the pin. We're not playing." I said, "Okay, fair enough. Who was the 4th? Oh, Ricky Ponting." You could have fucking mentioned that before. I would have weighed that into. I would have factored that in. I'll play windy golf with Ricky Ponting. I'm happy to do that.
And he's quite good, isn't he?
He plays off almost a scratch.
Yeah.
And Taunton's good. Like Taunton plays off about 2 or 3.
Right.
So it would have actually been a pretty good game of golf, I think.
Absolutely. And you were telling us off air, the whole concept was quite organic. How it all started. This whole podcast.
Yeah, I've always played socially, and I just accepted like most golfers do, because golf is the incredible thing about golf is like it's being played right now by millions of people around the world, like right now as we speak, as we're recording this, as you're listening to it at home, millions of people right now, somewhere in the world, are playing golf, and 98% of them are shit. You know, like if you're playing tennis once or twice a week and you're hitting every second ball out or long or wide or into the net, you're not coming back the next week. Eventually, you're going to give up after a couple of games. Golfers don't do that. You just keep going back. So I just went, I left the project about 2.5 years ago, and I just thought, if I'm going to have more time on my hands, what can I do? You know, I mean, my wife kept on reminding me, you're not retiring, by the way. You're leaving one show, but you're not retiring. Let's just make sure you know that. I was like, yeah, but I will have some more time. So I just said, let's actually try to get good at golf, because it never occurred to me that I could actually get good at golf. I just accepted that I was a shit golfer, and I'm still a shit golfer, but maybe I can get better at golf. I can get a level that's good. And then, the question is, what is good at golf? Is good at golf for me, is it playing off 18? Is it getting down to 10? You know, there are people who are off 10 or 12 who don't consider themselves good golfers. So we had a sponsor coming on, and they said in a meeting I had with them, they said, we wanted to have a long-term relationship with this podcast. What happens when you get good at golf? What happens if you get good at golf in a year? I said, that's not going to happen. And I said, what about 2 years? No, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. So relax.
Because they can start off for years and years and years.
Yeah.
When you're lining up, right, I'm just picturing you next to, say, Ricky Ponting, and if he's off scratch, are you in your own head in that situation? Like, I hesitate to play golf with people that are good at golf, because in terms of the performance anxiety.
Yeah. I think the more you play, the less I'm getting nervous about it. Like, he's still... I mean, also, I know that Ricky Ponting's not judging me. Like he's Ricky Ponting, and he knows he's off scratch, and he would know, but he would know. He knows now that I'm off, and
there's more pressure on him, really.
It's a good point.
Yeah,
it's a bloody good point.
Yeah, true.
That's why I don't think you didn't want to play. If it was a bit windy, Helliar is going to be watching.
That's content material right there.
But no, it's. I mean, I just love it. Also, because Fleming had always said, get a handicap, because if you get a handicap, that means it's just more fun. And I never completely understood it. But now that I've got one, you can see how you can compete against everyone, because you're playing, you're handicapped. So I played at a tournament where I scored 48 Stableford points, which is actually really good. And I won the day at Metropolitan, this great course on the Sandbelt. And I'm not winning it off the stick. I'm not winning it for my, but I won it because of my handicap and the way it all works. And you play to that, and it becomes really fun.
Oh, it's actually inspiring me to play golf. So I'm looking forward to
having
a hit soon. We're going to have a hit soon. But I want to kind of go back a bit. So this probably all ties in quite nicely into your story. So you're telling us again earlier about your relationship with Damien Fleming, and how you met him through radio, or community radio, you said, when he was still playing. So that probably goes almost back to the start of your career. So can you tell us about those days, and then meeting him, and then building that friendship?
Yeah, I started community radio. I went overseas when I was 18, just traveling by myself. I had a Finnish girlfriend, and I went over to kind of visit her, and then went traveling through the UK, and I was considering starting stand-up over in the UK. That was my kind of plan. Away from everybody, so nobody could see if I sucked or not. And then I kind of came back a bit earlier. I kind of got a bit sick, and I came back, so I never started. But then I got this opportunity to do this community radio course where you got paid to do it. And I did this little community radio course at Plenty Valley FM, 88.6 on the FM dial, Friday Morning Magazine. And I got the interview Rob Sitch, Magda, Trevor Marmalade, Rich Hall. One of my favourite things to do was to ring up publicists, Miranda Brown publicity who would do the festival, and try to get interviews for the show. And it was so exciting when they said yes. I remember I put in a request for Eddie Vedder, and we nearly got it. And that was peak Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
This is 98 or something. And it was always really exciting that I could get interviews with people. And but interviewed Flam through a friend of mine who played cricket with him. and he just came on and he was hilarious. Like, just I still remember him describing in detail Gary Ayres' calves. Gary Ayres played for Hawthorn. Because Flem played footy for Hawthorn at a young age, when they had like under 15s and under 16s and all that. So then and then we kind of just kept in touch, and so it's kind of, this has been kind of fortuitous that we're doing this golf podcast now. Yeah.
That's crazy. So going back to the community radio, I suppose, can you maybe share a bit more around those days, the experience of doing community radio? You asked us, like, did we, have we dabbled in community radio? It's not something we've done, but now, because everyone has their own platform, everyone can start their own podcast.
Well, this is basically, I mean, if this was around when this is what I would have tried to do, I think. So it was great. We had a guy called James Brasher, who was just a mate who I met for the course, but we had mutual friends. He was friends with Merrick Watts, and Merrick came on the show. So Merrick was the first person I met in comedy, and we're still, one of my closest mates in comedy, and one of my closest mates. And we learned how to do interviews and how to, that was when you were dealing with reels. So we were editing on reels, like, with and carts and recording, lots of stuff. And it was just fun. We did a Friday morning show, and a couple of graveyard shifts. It got silly at times. I remember one graveyard shift was farting into microphones, just because to see if anyone would call up and.
Any calls?
No calls. I don't think anybody was listening. But farting in the microphone is, when you fart into a phone, like, when you're younger, you might fart into a phone. I'm not sure if you've ever done that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And you kind of go, what's the point? Because the other end, they're just hearing some kind of muffled sound, and you're left with the stench of the fart. It's an own goal, I think.
It is an own goal.
It feels like definitely. To me. But yeah, so I learned a lot, and then I went on to Channel 31. I started doing comedy, and Merrick was great help just in giving me advice in those early days. American Rosso kind of took me under their wing, and started doing comedy, and then met Rove, and he was just started doing Channel 31, and he invited me on the Channel 31 show, The Loft, and we kind of ended up doing a segment we kind of just ended up doing for 10 years on Rove Live, which was just me at a desk. Kind of, Rove gave me absolute freedom to kind of go do whatever you do, like whatever you want to do. So we kind of did a segment called Other People's Lives, which you kind of took to the Channel 9 version of Rove and a little bit of the Channel 10 version, where I would just play, a guy who was trying to, chase down the Black Thunders to get, cans of Coke, or a guy who would produce his own videos. And it kind of started my kind of penchant for playing characters who have a lot of confidence but a little skill or awareness, and probably Strauchnie comes out of that as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely be touching on Strauchnie at some point. But around that time, before you kind of really launched, what was your day job? What were you kind of doing outside?
My last proper day job was Dan Murphy's.
Okay.
Full circle moment for you at the moment.
Full circle, as they are coming on board as sponsors of the Make Me Good at Golf podcast. And one of my sons works for Dan's, and so that was my last real job. And before then, I worked down at the docks, like before I went overseas, like packing containers. I call it that in my Bon Jovi years, and just odd jobs. I didn't go to uni. I just went traveling, and then the radio thing was as close to study as I. But
you always wanted to go into comedy, was that?
Yeah.
And how do you when do you have that aha moment, if you can even remember that? Okay, A, you're funny, and B, there's potential career.
Yeah, it's funny. I always think about it with models. Like, when do models kind of go, I'm good looking enough to, do this for a living? It's like, I guess at some point we all kind of go, well, I think I'm entertaining enough to go on stage or talking to microphones. And so I don't remember exactly when it was, but I do remember like going to our local football or cricket clubs comedy nights, and Russell Gilbert might be there, Cheryl Marmalade, and this thing, what a great way to make a living, like to looking around and people just loving being in the audience and laughing. And I thought, how good would that feel and to do? And so I always had an interest in it, and always had an interest in watching comedy on TV. There's no YouTube back then, so we just, like, the Big Gig was massive for us on the ABC, and that always had stand up on it. and just took an interest and just eventually kind of booked in to do 5 minutes on a Sunday at the Espy, and you'd ring up and on a landline, and Trev, this old hippie stoner, great Trev, would ask you if you've got 5 minutes of material and can you hold a microphone. And I was pretty sure I had 5 minutes. I didn't know how to time everything, but I mean, I thought I had 5 minutes, and I was pretty sure I knew how to hold a microphone. And so I said, yeah, and they booked me in. Like, it was probably like 2 months in advance, so you had to wait. And I went down to Geelong with a mate of mine, Fitzy, who was studying down at Geelong, and he was really interested in, he kind of believed in me and that I could do this, and I just had this big notebook of ideas I collected over the years, and we just basically worked out what my first set list would be and set would be, and then I lost that notebook in a cab. I got drunk and left it in the cab. And I kind of think now, it's like, all the gold that I lost, oh my God. And I'm sure if I was to see it, it'd be full of absolute drivel and shit. It would be no good. But the first gig was good. I was at a 21st, my mate's 21st night before, and I was doing the speech, and I nailed the speech, if you don't mind.
Well done.
Thank you. And I had a few beers afterwards, and I was just like I was telling everyone I'm starting my stand-up career tomorrow. So because I didn't want any friends to come. I think Fitzy was going to come, but I just wanted to kind of do it on the quiet, see how it went. So all of a sudden, I had probably 10 mates come down to see it, which is only 10 mates in a there's big days of Sundays at the Espy back then, and so there'd be maybe 200 people there. So it wasn't a loaded crowd, but I had a good gig. But I remember going up to the microphone, and I wore like a dinner suit because I kind of thought I want to feel like it's like I'm putting it's like a costume, like I want to feel like I'm performing. It is a performance. And I walked to the microphone, and I still hadn't worked out what joke I was going to do first. I had a joke about fish and chips, and I had a joke about phone sex. And I was like still tossing up which one to do first. And I walked up, and I was holding a small bottle of water. And I've actually got it on video. Like,
wow.
And I watched it a couple of years ago, and I was thinking, why did I have the bottle of water for? I was waiting for did I do a joke about the bottle of water? And I just forgot to put it down. I just
you held it the whole time.
I should have just put it down. I just had it. I was just like playing with it, and I went up to the microphone, and I went to rip the microphone out of the thing, and it wouldn't come out. So I'm just like, I was like, shit, maybe I haven't used a microphone before. And I thought I was really like ripping it out.
Yeah.
But when I looked at the videotape, I got this anyway. And I deliver this 5-minute routine, and I choose a fish and chip joke, which was a good choice. It went well. I think Will Anderson did say to me he thought it was the best first joke by a comedian that he's seen, and it only works in Victoria and South Australia, and I think in Tasmania. The joke was, where did you guys grow up?
Frankston.
Frankston, yeah. So the joke was, my first joke in comedy is, I've had a bad start to the week. I actually walked into a fish and chip shop and ordered maximum chips. $1,200 worth of chips. And then there was another bit about like two drunk guys dressed as seagulls rocked up wanting my chips and all that. So and it always went really well. And then I went to Sydney for the first time to do Harold Park, and I was like, okay, I've got my opener. My fish and chips is and I go up there and do my fish and chips opener, and just nothing, like zero. And that's when I learnt, as far as Melbourne and Sydney, are very similar, obviously, but there are differences, and you need to learn the differences. And they don't order a minimum chips; they order big chips or small chips or however they order their chips. It's not minimum.
It is bizarre. Minimum.
It is very vague. What is it? What
is minimum?
Mean? Yeah,
it's like asking for $5 worth of chips. It's like $10 worth of chips, thanks.
What is it? What is it? But I did see there was some kind of festival, some kind of thing called Maximum Chips or something that somebody had last year or something. And I thought I should get commission on that.
You should, yeah.
But and then I just learned how to add stuff. Like I did a joke about the extra potato cake, which was like how special you felt when you realised there was an extra potato cake. Because they always put an extra potato cake in your chips, and so that was just a good lesson in me. And again in Sydney, potato scallops. So it's just like just learning those little differences. But that was a good lesson for me of how to build routines. Like you're going to start with one little bit, and then okay, now that I've got the laugh here, what other things can I explore? Which I still use today, when I'm building a show. It's like, okay, while I'm in this area, in this neighbourhood, what other topics can I explore while I'm here?
Strauchnie! We'll be right back to the episode with Pete Helliar in just a moment. And yes, guys, for those that are waiting for the Strauchnie content, it's coming. Don't panic. But before we get there, let's have a quick word from our friends, Fleet Plan Hire Solutions. Dossy boy.
If you're new, you might not know who FBH are. So they are the leaders in everything earth-moving equipment. They provide you with the equipment you need to finish the project you've got going on, whether it's big, small, you need a truck, you need excavators, you need any type of machinery. You go to them, you lease it off them, and they look after all the paperwork and the nitty-gritty stuff as well.
Exactly right. So in layman's terms, they're the middleman. So when you've got a project, you've got the start and the finish, go to them and they'll sort out all the middle part, take the stress away, and their customer service is number one, so it'll just be a nice, smooth process. So visit fbh.com.au right now to find out more information.
Comedy, the landscape has changed a lot since, say, the 90s. So have you had to change much of the way you write in accordance with the time, or is it still very much similar?
It's pretty similar. Like, I like that the landscape's changed. I'm glad that we're not doing mother-in-law jokes, and because if the audience kind of dictates it to a large degree, like,
Well, there's so much crowd work now and all that stuff.
yeah, and, which I don't, I'm not against crowd work. I don't have massive opinions on it, but certainly part of it. But I like sitting in an audience and looking at the craft of because the dirty secret is crowd work's kind of easy. Like, it's much easier than I think the audience believes it is. Like, but what's harder is building routines. So I love doing that. But I think the difference with what I've done over the years is, for the first 10 or 15 years, I would just have ideas and they would just come to me and just allow, and now I kind of go, what are the areas that I want to talk about? Like, what are the interesting areas for me? What's going on in the world or my own life that I find interesting enough to talk about? Like, the last show I did was about the referendum and not the whole show, but, there's a section of it that was talking about the referendum, and it was an uncomfortable. I could feel like I'm happy to walk into uncomfortable places now, like where the first 15 years less so, but I would just allow the audience to feel the discomfort and be okay with it, and acknowledge the discomfort, and then get on with the joke. There's a joke I'm doing at the moment about Mattel toy company said that Barbie, they're going to release a blind Barbie. And there were people online going, "This is woke bullshit. It's woke bullshit," and a lot of people were like, "This is cool," And I said to the audience, I said, "We can argue about has wokeism gone too far? Yes, it probably has. They've probably lost control of the wheel. But the seed of what wokeism is being awake to there is, racism and homophobia, and being aware of that. That's kind of what, and at the center of that is inclusion, and that should be encouraged. I think Mattel have seen there's a section of their community that's not represented in the Barbie world, so let's bring those people in. And I say all of that, and the audience is kind of like, and I just take a drink, and the audience is like, what? you might get one or two people just go, give it a bit of a clap, but mostly they are like confused, and they're like, okay, I guess maybe you're right, but or not, and I just let them be uncomfortable with it, and then I say, however, and then there's some giggles, and I say, my only reservation with there being blind Barbies, does this mean all the other Barbies could see? And then you start hearing the laughter, and I say, I think I owe my sister's Barbie an apology. It was puberty. I was experimenting. It's a weird time. I want to apologise to my brother, Inspector Gadget. And I love the relief that everybody feels. Like, I'm enjoying playing in the space where people don't necessarily even. They might come with preconceived ideas about who I am and how I vote and all these things. And they might be right, they might be wrong. But I like playing in that space that, like, I kind of hate the term right and left. But I want to play in that space where it's like, hang on, he kind of led us that way. And then he kind of went, I think there's weirdness on both sides, and I like to play in that kind of space.
They're always the best because, they're typically the funny. So, I mean, we've been lucky enough to interview some people that we've looked up to over the years, especially when it comes to comedy. And I mean, your your network or your generation, whatever you want to call it, like we've just been blessed with all these unbelievable comics. But who have you based some of your comedy off over the years? Who did you look up to? And even as you keep evolving, bits of this person or that person, is there anyone that kind of comes to mind?
Yeah, there's somebody who was after I started doing stand-up, I saw Dave Taranto, who's sadly no longer with us. He used to run a room called the Cheese Shop at the Prince Patrick Hotel, where I met my now wife. He would sometimes, not before the night of comedy, where he would curate it. So you had to be invited to do the Cheese Shop, and I, thankfully was. But he often showed like a video, like a VHS video or a DVD of a performance. Because again, this is early 2000s, so there's we don't have all the access to YouTube, so you're just becoming a thing. And he would show Eddie Izzard like Definite Article or Glorious, and I remember seeing like Definite Article and going, that kind of feels. Watching Eddie Izzard was kind of like that. Kind of feels like how I think in a way. Like his rhythm was how I don't think in, and I don't really even express myself in kind of in those meticulous kind of ways. I can ramble, and I can lose my train of thought, and like I've never gone down any path of trying to understand it, whether I have ADHD or something, but I do kind of get distracted, by other thoughts, and I'll be chatting to my wife, and she'll see me kind of looking over her shoulder all of a sudden, and she's like, "What are you thinking of? You're thinking of a routine, aren't you?" "Yeah, I am." Yeah. So I kind of, he was an influence, and maybe too much so, because I've seen routines back where I was clearly trying to do Eddie Izzard, and it was like, I don't, that's, don't try to take on his mannerisms, Yeah, I certainly didn't start dressing in high heels and skirts, but he was a really massive influence. Billy Connolly, and even the big, any comedian was on the big gig, Glenn Nicholas and Richard Stubbs and Wendy Harmer and those guys. And I love American sitcoms. I love British stuff. I love Blackadder and Monty Python and a bit like Cheers and Family Ties.
Yep.
I mean, I think I never kind of say them as my. I was thinking about it recently, but I think my two favorite actors, because you always think movies, you always go like De Niro or but I think Ted Danson and Michael J. Fox are just like perfect as actors. I love watching those two. So that was some of the influences.
You touched briefly on the Rove days, and that's obviously part of your big break, I suppose, as well. But did you guys ever reminisce on like how special that time was? Like it was a pretty long stretch, and it was such a massive show, and I think a lot of us forget like how big that was in pop culture in Australia, that show. Yeah,
to be honest, I think the cool thing for me to say is like, no, we never really do that. But like, I think Rove and I, like when because he doesn't, we don't live in the same city, so when we, if he's in town, we try to catch up, and if I'm over in Perth, we'll catch up over there, and it's because we don't see each other weekly, or even it might be every couple of months. We do kind of like to reflect, and it was a really it was a great time. It was very exciting for us to go from working at Dan Murphy's to go to the Rove pilot, and then to have this one season at Channel 9 where we were on at 11 o'clock at night, sometimes 11:30 by the time Jim Whaley got off the news, and just have these people come on the show, and they have this like, and it was like the whole Hollywood system, Channel 9 then, where you'd have these kind of bungalows almost, and then have the studios you'd be right across. So I'd write a sketch, and 2 days later, they've built a set for this sketch that I just written, and it blew my mind, And so I was like a kid at a candy store, like. And I think I probably was the most prolific writer out of that group, I think. And I just loved it. It was so infectious. And I was coming up, I was like, okay, we have a budget and we can do stuff. Like I wrote a sketch about a game show, and I made us all speak German, and we blew Dave Callan up, and it was just a ridiculous sketch. When I say we all spoke German, Corinne Grant spoke really good German, and I did some kind of version of English German, but we drove out to Point Cook, and we blew Dave up, and there was an explosion, and it was so cool.
Yeah.
And we, slowly over the years we would have celebrities who'd come on and be happy to come on and do a cameo. And although we did have one of their first. We do.
Here we go.
We do chuckle about this a little bit. Sadly, the man who in question has passed away kind of recently, so we did reflect on it a little bit. But so our first celebrity appointment on the show was we did a segment called "Where Are They Now," and so one of them might have been who was this wasn't a real one. But it might have been like Jackie McDonald, and where is she now? And she's on lay-by at Target or something like. It was weird, and we wanted we basically just put it at the net. Our producers would put it at the net who would happily come along and have some fun with us. And Peter Russell Clark, who sadly passed away this year, icon of Australian culinary landscape, said his manager at least said Pete will be up for it. So our "Where Are They Now" for Peter Russell Clark was that he was going to be nude modelling, those life model sketches, and so we were just waiting. We were all waiting. We were all so excited, and we all had the easels set up with thing. And the idea was that we thought it had been agreed to that Peter Russell Clark was going to nude up, maybe with the modesty, probably a modesty thing, and probably shoot it in a way where he wasn't actually going to be nude in front of us or anything. And he got there. And he goes, "Okay, so what's the idea?" And we're like, "Oh, this doesn't feel right."
Oh, no.
And we've had to explain. And while we're waiting, Dave Callum, who's quite a good drawer, just decided to draw a little sketch. And the sketch that he drew was really good, but it was of a bearded man, being Peter Russell Clark, with a block of Swiss cheese just right in his groin. You couldn't get around the fact that his dick's obviously in some cheese here. It was right there. And we had a bit of a laugh, because we were all getting ready for this, and we assumed Peter Russell Clark's got a good sense of humour because he's agreed to do this sketch. But I don't think he had any idea what the sketch was about. And he got there, and as soon as we told him, and then he saw Dave's sketch, he's like, "What's this?" He goes, "Oh, well, I just thought I would start drawing this, because we're going to be drawing you." I just thought, Dave was just... And he just nah, and he just stormed out.
Oh.
And that was it. That was our first celebrity kind of moment in a way of going, "Oh, we thought this was going to be fun and cool," and he came with good intentions and fully briefed. But no, so the lesson is, if you're going to ask somebody to nude up, make sure they are across it, not just their manager. Yeah.
Speaking again on those Rove days, and obviously you moved to Channel 10. Do you sign a contract with, say, the 10 network, and then they present other ideas? So obviously before the game comes in, and then all these other shows. Or are you almost like a free agent that can go to any network?
I think I was pretty much. I mean, technically, I probably could have done a Sam Pang and kind of, been on all the networks. How that man has worked out those deals.
Who's his
How come
manager?
everybody that comes to this show has a dig at Sam Pang? Every single person does. And it's always about that.
Is that right? No, we're all envious. But he... I could have, but the smart thing, I was pretty loyal to 10 because they had, 9 basically said to Rove, "We want to keep you, but we don't want to necessarily do the show anymore," because Mick Malloy's show had gone and hadn't gone as well as Mick had hoped and what we'd all hoped. And then there was kind of a bit of fallback on us as well, and they were going to get rid of our show. But they said, "We want to keep Rove, and we're going to let the others go, but we just want to keep you." And what I was hearing was he was basically offered $1 million to stay as a 23-year-old.
Wow.
And he said no. He said, "No, I believe in this show. I believe in my friends here and these people, and I'm going to see if I can take it somewhere else," which is one of the most impressive things I've ever heard. For a 23-year-old. You're basically setting yourself up. They genuinely loved him. They saw him as one of the great next talents, which he obviously became. But you don't know. We went and did 10 years at Channel 10, but you don't. In hindsight, you're gonna go, "Yeah, of course," because Rove's amazing, But you don't know. I remember checking in with him, and we were hanging out in that time. He's going, "Oh, I thought they knew there was an offer on the table," and then it was like, "No, we don't know yet." and just checking in occasionally, going, "Is there any news?" and he'd be like, "Oh, there's maybes," and then eventually, 10 came, and then we had an amazing 10 years on that show. So, and then with like before the game, I that was an idea I came up with. I was watching, there's a show, it was called Baddiel and Skinner. Was it Fantasy World Cup or and that was just Frank Skinner and David Baddiel just sitting on a couch just watching Premier, about adding comedic humour, like not just just punters having a laugh. They were actually like comedians who had structured some sketches and segments, and I thought there should be an AFL version of this. So we first met with Hugh. It was me, Hughesy, and Will Anderson.
It was your brainchild, was it?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
And so I told my manager, he organised a meeting with, I knew Will and Dave, and they were like, yeah, that's perfect. But then Will was about to start the Glass House on the ABC, and we just thought, doing both shows, just even, it might have been Will's call in the end, I forget. But then so we put a team together, which was, in the first year, it was myself, Hughesy, Damien Callanan was in the first year, Eloise Southby, and was it anything? Hutto came, I think, even a bit later, because I think I was hosting in that first half of the year or so, and I do remember them saying at some point, "Do you want some help hosting? Like, do you want to have a co-host?" And I was a bit like, "What? No, I think I'm doing a pretty good job." They said, "No, you're doing a good job, but like, there's a lot of heavy lifting in the show as well." Like, and it was a lesson for me about ego. Like, I'm going, you can still, like, you don't have to, like, you came up with this, and you're all over it. You're not disappearing in this show. It just means you don't have to thank Coca-Cola for sponsoring a segment. I can still throw to Tool of the Week. I'm just not saying welcome back and all the stuff that's actually quite boring, because it can get in the way. And the point was, it can get in the way of you delivering comedy, because you're delivering all the bits and pieces, So it was actually the best call. So we got, I think, was it Hutto first or Andy May? Hutto first, and then Anthony Marr, I think, took over. And it was great. We had that show lasted for 12 years. I left after 5 or 6 because we were doing Rove Live, we were doing Skit House as well. Before the game, I was doing breakfast radio in Sydney, and Saturday morning Rove with Corinne and Rove. So I was doing like 5 hours on a Friday of radio. Our second kid was on the way, and I just went, I can't keep this up. Either I'm gonna lose a family, or just have one less show to worry about. So it was a pretty easy call. I left before the game after about 5-6 years. Yeah.
Yeah, one of our favourite shows, wasn't it?
Oh, we loved it. I mean, we've talked about it so many times. That was like, excuse me, when how old would we have been? Kids?
Yeah,
going
13.
Teenage? Yeah. And then it was just what you did on a Saturday night. Like, 10 had its, obviously, trailed the afternoon game into the Saturday night game.
Yeah.
And it's so now nostalgic. But what was the weeks like leading up to a show in the writers? Do you have like a writer's room, or how much is it on the fly, and how much?
It was kind of in the same, because I was doing Rove Live at the same time and Skid House, so it was kind of like we're all in the same place. So I think there wasn't. We would have a meeting early in the week, and then another one on Thursday or Friday. It must have been. And I think on the Friday meeting the guy got Johnny Tarano, who I'm sure works at a front bar now. He would find the clips, all the Tour of the Week clips. It was 98% of them was Johnny Tarano.
Big job.
Yeah, like combing through Vision, looking at not the actual game, but the crowd, what's happening in the crowd, all those things that we all miss. So he would bring us, 40 clips of stuff, and we would go, yeah, yeah. And then when we got there on Saturday, he would take us through it again. And then we had some writers. We had Paul Kalesia, who Strauchnie was original. He came with the idea of Strauchnie, like that I play this, because he'd seen the other people's lives characters I played on Rove. He thought me playing again another ego kind of character, and then that became that thing. But it wasn't like a writer. The guys would write pretty independently. But I did learn before the game early on. We would go in with like 30 jokes in my head, or just in bullet point, and then by the third season I'd be like, or maybe the second season I'd be like, just go with 2 jokes, just have 2 jokes in your head. One for the top of the show. Maybe one for the guest, and then just spend the rest of your time just listening. Don't. Because if you go loaded in with all these jokes, you're not listening to anything. So you're just ready. You're trying to create opportunities for your jokes to get in. And it was one of the best lessons I learned. Just go in, do your prep, but just going with less in your head. Just going with a bit of a freer headspace.
Do you get a bit annoyed at the whole Strauchnie thing? How much attention it's gotten you over the years, and has it become your known profile now because of that?
Not annoyed. No, I love it. It's funny because some people do have an attitude of some people have asked me that before, and I'm like, I find it slightly weird because it's like, it is me.
Yeah, because I don't look at you and think Strauchnie, because it feels like 2 different people.
Well, it's funny. Steve Curry gave me a lovely compliment, which is, he goes, because I was talking about acting, I was getting a few auditions, and I was chatting to Steve about acting. He's, a great mate and just a brilliant actor. And he goes, what you're doing is Strauchnie is acting. He goes, you do know that, don't you? I go, I guess so. He goes, it's as a complete performance as you could possibly ask for. He goes, you're not Strauchnie. You're not who you're portraying. And I thought, okay, yeah, that's I can see that. But Strauchnie is. I brought him back recently. Collingwood got in touch and said, would you like to do some more? And I was just like, you know what? I get asked about him each week. Somebody will yell Strauchnie out. People will ask about him. Are you going to bring him back? And it's kind of weird because you do bring him back, and then there's a couple of people online say, oh, why did you bring him back? It's not 2005 anymore. It's like, yeah, but you don't understand. One, it's just super fun. I get to go to the club that I love and hang out with a new generation of players, and have fun. It's just fun. So people ask for it. It is. It's not like I'm bringing back something that nobody's ever asked for. It's just so much fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't we just play a bit for the viewers and listeners? And here's this is what we're interested in. We want to ask about Mick Malthouse afterwards, but hit play, Jared.
I'm really annoyed at
What?
I've been hearing you've been training at another joint.
That's not true. How?
Mark Williams has told me.
Well,
Over at Port.
it was only just once, though. It was just one session, Eddie. It was just one session. It was one session. I'm in deep.
I'd get out of here if I was you.
Yeah, actually, I better. Okay,
happy.
I better.
He's not happy.
Okay, I better go. Catch you guys. I'm just going to say goodbye to the canteen girls, and then I'll take the bags.
Please, Johnny.
I think that was after a Mad Monday incident at one of the hotels.
So the access that you had with that show was unbelievable at the time.
So we had a meeting with Neil Baum, who was at the club, and Greg Swan, who is now in the AFL. He's gone from Brisbane into the AFL, went to Carlton, and me and Michelle White, our producer, met with them at the Lexus Centre at the time, and they said, we want to do this character. We would like access. And the reason they said yes is a couple of reasons. One, they kind of saw that before the game, it could become a popular show, and they would have sponsors kind of, like they said, if you got to wear the sponsors. That's why Strauchnie's always going on, and you got to take care of your sponsors, And they knew I was a Collingwood supporter, and I wouldn't do anything if we saw something that we weren't supposed to film, that we would respectfully not screen it or use it. And that I just wouldn't do anything to damage the club. So they were really good with it. The players were great straight away. Mick took a while to come around, but then we started using his daughter, Christy Malthouse, as a kind of faux kind of love interest
Very funny.
of Strauchnie's. And once Christy was on board, Mick loved it, and he was great, and it was it was funny, and then it was then playing the Legends games kind of took it to a new level because you got to see Strauchnie, this kind of character. Because Mick Malthouse, he said to me once, he goes, Collingwood supporters will come up to me and say, like, almost a bit angry and kind of saying, why aren't you playing Strauchnie? And like Mick would start laughing, thinking, well, they're joking, obviously, like they're having they're taking the piss. And then you like realise, oh no, they think there's a superstar in the seconds, an overweight superstar in the seconds, who I'm not playing, and like they can't understand it. So we did it became a bit of a thing where we did have to try to keep the believability of the character, even though, of course, it's it's not believable. But somehow there were people who believed it, and kids believed it. When we first went out, and we saw Strauchnie kicking the ball for the first time. Producer Michelle White said, I kicked a few goals or got close from the boundary line. And she said, kick him on the full, like shank him on the full. I said, no. Because it needs to be like this kind of believability that he could potentially
He somehow has
erase
got drafted.
all the other issues going on physically with him. But there needs to be like somewhere you kind of go, maybe he could. Maybe he could.
I'll never forget going to one of those Legends games, and you had the fake tan on, and you went out, and I think you might have even had the tape around the nose, like the Juddy thing, and you kicked a snag, and the crowd went nuts, like you're high-fiving the crowd. Like
it was one of my favorite memories, and I remember being in the club rooms, and they had the forward line on the whiteboard. It was like Brereton, Kernahan, like Frivola, Lloyd, and then Strauchnie. And it was just like, what is going on here? What is going on? But they took care of me, like even the first goal Strauchnie kicked, Martin Pike, he said to me, he goes, I'm going to give you lead for the ball, and I'll give you a nudge, and we'll get you a free kick. And it kind of worked out exactly like that, where now when a 73-year-old vegan goes out and plays, they they crunch him. They crunch him and they break his ribs and they puncture his lungs.
Do you, because I mean, we had the DVDs and everything. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite, especially in that early year or two? Do you have a favorite skit that comes to mind from the Strauchnie days? Or
the one that got the most attention was where he goes. It might have been even the grand final thing. We went. They had a barbecue at Sarita and Dutchie's Brodie Holland's place, and he had a crook sausage roll or something, or and then he ends up in the toilet and he can't flush. he can't flush it. So he gets Sarita in, and she's like over there, and Strauchnie's like leaning back, and then it comes. It was all the Wayne Carey kind of scandal which had happened, and it was a piss take on that, and that kind of became a bit of a thing, and in its own, in a good way, so that was probably the one that stood out.
Just one quick one. How often were you batch recording a bunch of them? Or were you in the club every week filming?
Well, we occasionally do it if we thought we could knock over, if we had ideas. It was all about the ideas. What ideas do we have? And if we like to respond to stuff that was happening, but we also, it was probably hard getting in there every week.
Trying to train and the camera crew.
You always thought, as much as it was fun, you always did feel a little bit of an imposter syndrome going on. And sometimes, because they're young blokes as well, sometimes you'd be in there and they would yell out, Strauchnie, and you look around and none of them acknowledge that they've actually done it. So there was and then some players loved being on camera, some didn't. But they were all fine with it. But, they rang me, Hayden Skipworth, who's the assistant coach, rang me about 2 years ago and said, could Strauchnie come and do a speech before we play Richmond? And it's a pre-season game. And I said, what, the day before? He goes, no, they're the day of. I said, like an hour before, 2 hours before? He goes, 10 minutes before they run out. I'm like, I hadn't done him for a little while. I was like, okay, can you give me a couple of hints of things that might be going on with the players that I can work on? And I was genuinely nervous because I was like, I haven't performed Strauchnie in front of maybe Steele and Pendles were the two that knew Strauchnie from way back, but I don't know what these people young guys think about Strauchnie now, but Craig McRae just loved it, and so he was keen, and I walked in,
Was it at the Lexus Centre? Was it there?
No, this was at what is it now? The old Princess Park.
Oh yeah.
So the crowd's all there. They're not far from running out. And I just, walked in, Strauchnie, and they've exploded. And it's only a small room. It's basically just the players and the coaches, like Lepper, and they exploded. They couldn't have been more excited. And I was just, I think I was saying, I'm not sure if you guys know, but Josh and Nick have to only playing half a game today, not because of fitness, but they've got a cashier at half time. Strauchnie, and we got a John Noble, make sure you wear banana boat, make sure and they're this, they're loving it. Asking Bo McCreary about his mum, give me a number. And it was one of the all-time great gigs I've had, I reckon, because because I do gigs now. I don't tend to feel nervous for a gig. I'm excited to get on stage, but I'm not nervous. But I was nervous, and it just went as well as it could have gone. I was getting messages from Jeremy Howe the next day, and Pendle's saying it was amazing, and But yeah, it was a different kind of atmosphere, like to see, what time has done like 10 years ago, that you wouldn't get away with doing a comedy sketch 10 minutes before they run out into the ground, even in a practice game.
But the access is so good. Like I even think back to if you were part of the writing for this for before. Actually, no. Was it before the game or was it the footy? It might have been the footy show. I think it was the footy show. Sorry. And Hughesy would go out to the clubs and he would stand in front of them in the auditoriums and he would spray them. He would do the coach's spray, And it's the exact same thing. Like as a fan, you love seeing players kind of get the mick taken out of them a little bit. It's just, I don't know. It's just funny.
Well, and they love it as well. And we will never mean spirited about it. We didn't, all my comedy, I've never wanted to, make anyone feel bad about themselves or sometimes people have wandered into the zeitgeist and you're like, I remember Nikki Webster, who I saw recently actually, but years ago, I must have made a joke about Nikki Webster, and she saw me at the Arias or something, and she said, "Oh, you had a go at me," and I said, "Well, it wasn't a go at you. You were just a name that I used. It was almost insert name here, and you just happened to be like one of the most famous people in the country at that time. So you just became like, it wasn't a joke about Nikki Webster as such, but that's just what happens when you are that big, So, but yeah, you always hope that people aren't offended. But yeah.
So moving across to a show like The Project, when you go into now you're covering like it's news and it's a bit more serious and but then you're obviously bringing the lighthearted side of things. What's it like working with like obviously serious breaking news and current affairs versus like footy, for example?
Yeah, it felt like the right time for me because I'd done a lot of dressing up on Rove and doing 1 week I've been lycra, mucking around with a Hollywood superstar or doing something or playing charades with Charlie's Angels or and then so that was a very fun show and very kind of just and this was like okay I'd kind of gone and done It's a Date. I did a couple of seasons of It's a Date which I created and directed some episodes of that, which was the first time I directed and acted a bit and I was very proud of that show. And then they asked me to do the project because I knew Hughesy was leaving, and they said, do you want to do it? And I said no because I was just enjoying what I was doing. And then my wife said, why don't you just all the people in there, Carrie, Charlie, just go in and do the show and see if you like it. I was like, yep, okay, all right. So I did one episode and I was like over summer and I was like, it's actually pretty fun. Yeah. Like, and yeah, it took me a little while, not that long, but a little while to kind of go, it's okay not to speak for a little while. Like, it's okay if the whole segment 2 or 3 is about, if it was now, Gaza, it's okay if people don't get Peter Helliar's take on that, And I always say to people on that show who came through, who were sitting in the 4th chair, if you don't have an opinion on that thing, you don't make one up just to get your voice in because you get yourself in trouble. So yeah, it was just finding that it's okay not to say stuff for a while, and then you'll have times where a segment was heavily comedic, and just finding that kind of that pace. But yeah, I loved it. Hughesy told me not to do it. He
told you not to?
Yeah, he told me not to do it. He goes, it's not a good chair for a comedian. I said, well, you're there for 5 years, mate. And I kind of thought, I can always, if I do a year, I do a year, and if I leave after that. But
exactly.
But I kind of just thought it was a great chair for a comedian. I thought I enjoyed it. I got to interview absolute heroes, like Francis Ford Coppola and LeBron James and Magic Johnson, and people that I just, it was incredible. So, and had fun, and sometimes it's just incredible to watch that show be put together, and the Waleed and Carrie, just amazing people. Lisa Wilkinson, don't
forget the great man Steve Price.
Well, Steve Price is an interesting one because like in this whole left and right thing, it's like I love that I'm mates with Pricey, and that he just reminds me that you don't like. I don't go to a barbecue. I don't think anyone goes to a barbecue and tries to work out how people vote before you kind of start having conversations. You just have conversations with people, and I think that's the way. Online kind of makes us feel like that's not how we live, but it should be. So, me and Pricey don't see eye to eye on a whole lot of things, but we get along. He's actually a really generous guy. He's a pretty funny guy, and he's great company.
Yeah.
For sure.
And you've both been in the jungle together. Was it together? No, different seasons.
He was a bit before me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did like season 2, I think. I did season 9, I think I was. But yeah, that was great. It was a great experience. Well, when I left the project, I was like, I was just saying no to a few too many things, and I thought I'm not sure if these opportunities are going to keep getting offered. You know, so I left the project, and within a year, I did like Who Do You Think You Are on SBS, I'm a Celebrity, Taskmaster, and The Amazing Race, and all 4 were just beautiful experiences.
Awesome.
Yeah, a bit of pictures of you. We saw
pictures of you.
Yeah.
Pictures of you. Yeah, that was probably a bit before those years. Yeah, that was a great show.
We were reflecting on it yesterday because we forgot all about that show.
It's one of those shows.
I remember it being on TV and watching it, and that just the theme song just in my head of that song. I'm not going to sing it.
No.
Come on.
What is there any of those types of shows though you haven't done or would like to do, or you see on TV, go, I'd be perfect for this, or I would love to have a crack at that?
It's funny because I feel like the shows. I mean, there's always new shows coming up.
Yeah.
And I love that I can go and do, a few Have You Been Paying Attentions in a year, and Spics and Specs, and been on Andy Lee's show a few times. They're fun. But as far as those kind of different shows, The Amazing Race was the best experience I've ever had in my life. Just loved it. The fact I got to do with my wife was incredible, and have made great friends out of that and the jungle. Dance with the Stars, I've asked a few times. I've said to the producer, I said, I've seen, it'll be funny for like a minute, if that. Just me going. And then they'll ask me to do a tango, and I'll be the first person. I'll be the first contestant with a visible erection, and it won't be
laughing then.
The laughter will stop, and I'll be cancelled. So, I mean, I would love. I'm trying to kind of create. So with the golfing podcast, it's funny because somebody said, we should do this on TV. And I said, I don't think we need to. I said, we can just do this on YouTube as our own show, and we own it. And so I'd like to do some like bigger content about golf, and even like travel, and that like that's kind of where my head's at even more than free-to-air stuff. I see the way you guys work, and you guys are obviously worth billions now, and I'm just like, I want a piece of this sweet.
Well, don't touch our golf sponsors.
I'm always using Fleet Plant Hire Solutions. When I need plants, I got a fleet.
Well, that almost leads us perfectly into.
Well, they'll be signing up for another year thanks to you.
Yeah.
They're the best in the biz.
Well, shall we head into
Let's
the segment?
go to GCO.
All right, so that leads us in perfectly into the GCO Confessional. Jared's about to bring in some clubs I'm sure you can appreciate. But the one thing we really want to focus on these clubs is actually that Tri-Light buggy, DOS. $200 at GCO.
Well, GCO, Golf Clearance Outlet. You
yes.
haven't actually said the name. Everyone's trying to probably work out what GCO is. So Golf Clearance Outlet, that buggy, how much is it?
$200, 5.5 kilos, the number one selling buggy. So you can get around the course nice and easily, Pete. But yeah, maybe we'll talk a bit more about GCO before we launch this segment.
Well, essentially, they're for everyone. So
Yes.
whether you're a really pro golfer like yourself, Pete, or people like you and me, who we're still learning and still trying to find our way on the course, but they can fit you out at a really, really affordable price. So you can walk into one of their stores across many locations. You don't get overwhelmed. They help you out, and they kit you up nicely.
Plus, there's always a bargain on there. So if you want to check their website out, you'll just, even if you're a real seasoned pro, you always find a nice little discount or a bargain.
What's their website?
golfclearanceoutlet.com.au, or of course, like Dos said, go and visit one of their many stores. But now it's time for the GCO Confessional. So we'd love to know what you can confess to us, Pete Helliar.
I feel like we should dim the lights here.
A bit of suspense music.
It's tricky because I have been asked this question because I've been doing this for like 30 years. I'm like, what haven't I spoken about? I don't feel like a lot of skeletons in the closet or anything. But this is something I thought of, and I'm not sure if you do this. It's one when you do comedy. The scary people say it must be scary being a comedian. It's not really. Like when you've been doing it for long enough, as far as stand-up goes. You feel pretty comfortable. You kind of have your radar's pretty good at what works. But you always like when you say something where you're going to go, I'm not completely sure if this is just me or is this everyone. So there are times when I'll be chatting to somebody and I'd be like, what? What would happen if I punched you in the face right now? You do that?
They're called intrusive thoughts, Pete.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm kind of relieved because I was on, and it's not always punching in the face.
No, there's other ways
No,
to
it
it.
gets really dark very quick.
There's even like throwing water in somebody's face.
100%.
Yes.
That, I was on Rove Live once. We had Lady Gaga on, and I was like, "What?" And I was just distracted. I was like, "What would happen if I just like got a glass of water and threw it in your face?" And it's not about harming Lady Gaga. It's more about, I think, because if you build stories, which I try to do with various shows I write and books, that there's always an inciting incident. The inciting incident that then, sets up, sets all the dominoes in motion. What is it? Like if it's Doc Brown inventing the time machine, and so I kind of think, okay, out of interest, what would happen if I was to throw a glass of water in the Lady Gaga's face live on TV? Like, I'd probably lose my job, probably.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah?
Definitely. I've had some shockers as well. I mean, I've had ones where, I don't know if you've had these, but when you might be, say, somewhere high up, throwing your phone over. Like,
Yeah.
At the footy,
at
yes,
the footy,
kicking the
or
footy on the ground.
Kicking the footy under the ground, or throwing a beer, like when you're at the footy and you're holding a beer. Like, I've genuinely thought, I'm like, what would happen if I just like threw that on the guy
Yeah.
in front of me? Or like, it's horrible to think about. I would never do it, but I'm like, wonder what would happen.
One of my mates and I nearly committed once to this, right? And it's the dumbest little thought I had, and we thought, what would happen? So we were at a wrestling event, right, in the city. Like the wrestling was in town. It was the biggest like WWE show, and one of the wrestlers were going to walk through the crowd, and we found exactly. And it was a live show going out to the whole world on Netflix. Oh, not Netflix, but whatever it was at the time. And we found where the wrestlers were going to walk out. And I said to my mate, I said, when they go past, if we stand in camera shot, double dack me. Because
that's jeans and
and
undies.
yeah,
Yeah.
Because if that happens, we're instantly memed for the rest of our lives. If it's live to the world, like you'll be that guy for. And it was the dumbest thought that went through our heads that like we could just do this. And then in the end, cooler heads prevailed. But it's that stupid thought that goes through your head, like what would happen if we were to do this?
Oh, there's part of your brain that is just like, on shuffle or something where it's too random. You can't even quite control it. Like sometimes I do a thing where if I get like a dark thought, and I'm not like something like this is not I'm not walking into the mental health area, but like say I have a horrible thought that, fuck, what if something happens to one of my kids, and what I'll do, I'll just tap my temple twice, and it just reminds me that this is just a weird thought you're having. Like it's just part of your brain that's just for some reason just kind of shooting off, and just to reset it. And it actually really works. So I don't think I've even told anyone that before. So if you ever see me kind of just go like that, I'm talking to you.
You're not thinking.
It's not that. It's this double tap. It's always going to be double tap. And it does.
If he's doing that, exit.
Yeah, just create some space. Just walk back, because I may be about to throw a glass of water in your face.
Oh, that is hilarious. Well, I think he deserves a prize, Dos.
He's going home with the Pro
Bring it out, Jared.
FX Sharpshooter Slope Rangefinder.
Yeah, this will help you on the golf course, Pete. So this is this is a rangefinder. Now, this is exclusive to GCO. You can, of course, get on the website. Only $166. It's the best rangefinder on the market. So that'll help you find your range and get the right iron.
Fantastic, guys. Thank you very much.
Just our way of saying thank you. Now what we'll do is, as our way of saying thank you for coming on the show, we're going to give out the dos&d Goodie Bag. Jared's going to just remove that. And what do you reckon? What do you want to bring out first?
I'll let Jared surprise us.
Let Jared surprise us. Okay.
There's so many, Pete. I don't know
Bring
which one
out
to go first.
Bring out the milkman. Let's do the milkman first.
Are you guys too young to remember when this is inspired by the wide world of sports, because they used to have the goodie bag. They probably still do them on the Channel 9.
It was a footy show.
It's very
Sunday
much
footy show.
very much inspired by it.
Oh, I'd be at home just watching and go, I want to go to the handball competition.
Yeah, exactly right.
Literally.
I remember always having that thought, like, I'd love some brand new Aquila dress shoes, Like,
So we thought, what if we could recreate this? So the first one's a milkman. So Dos is going to talk about the
milkman. They're number one in everything men's grooming, Pete. So male grooming, Milkman Australia, they are the kings of that. So I think inside you've got the hair styling powder, you've got the natural deodorant, which I don't know about you, but like the aluminium sprays aren't too good for you. So the natural roll-on deodorant, no nasties, and then the 3-in-1 body wash, which that'll make you smell beautiful as well. So,
I need some of that.
so guys, head to milkmanaustralia.com. Use the code dos&d for 30% off. 20% off, sorry. I thought we were getting an extra discount.
Maybe we could talk him into it. Maybe we could talk him into it. It's timing for Christmas, but yeah, guys, make the most of that. And then what do you got next? Jared, you're going to bring in sup. Yeah, okay.
Supplements. I reckon Strauchnie will love these.
Yeah,
the
these are for
supplements.
Strauchnie.
Oh, the creatine and the pre-workout. So rather than walking around with your protein shaker or chucking your creatine in the shaker, you can just pop a couple of these little gummies. They taste delicious. They're like lollies. So that'll get you nice and strong and recover well from your workouts.
Now, was Strauchnie ever done with any doping scandals back in the day?
I think he was found, he had MSG in his system a few times, I think.
The good thing about sup is they're Hustler approved. So Strauchnie can go play Legends game and they're absolutely
Okay, the water
fine.
approved, excellent.
Supsupplements.com. Use the code dos&d for 30% off for supplements.
Or, of course, you can pick them up at Woolies, Coles, or Chemist Warehouse. Next, we've got Tommy's. So we go from the health to the maybe not so health, but we're going into summer, Pete, and these go down an absolute treat. So our friends at Tommy's, these are the guys on Chapel Street. They've got a pizzeria called Freddy's, which is an absolute great way to spend a Friday or Saturday night. And they've got Tommy's on tap. This is their drink.
Okay.
It's inspired by their Italian backgrounds.
Like
and
limoncello, yeah.
Yeah, and it goes down an absolute treat in the summer. So we highly recommend you guys check that out. I think they're in Dan Murphy's now too, actually. So you can get the vodka spritz. If you want to try Tommy's, use the code Tommy's01 for 10% off at the website that you'll see below.
And lastly, we've got the Mitch Dowds.
In time for Christmas, Dos. Yeah, the
Oh,
Mitch
ho, ho,
Dowds.
ho.
Now, Mitch Dowds actually are owned by Russell Athletic as well, but they're sending you home with some socks, some jocks, some pajamas as well. So in time for Christmas, Pete. So this might derail your kids' plans for presents. Not sure what that is. But we just wanted to make sure we were
I don't think these are going to fit.
Well, we just wanted to make sure we were the first to say Merry Christmas to Pete Helliar
Thank
this
you
year.
very
But
much.
in
Oh,
there,
awesome.
mate, there's a few socks and
beautiful.
jocks.
Yeah.
They'll help you out,
These
mate.
are genuinely bloody helpful
Yeah.
and well timed as well.
Oh, good.
They're bamboo, mate, really comfy. And you guys can make the most of the code, which will get you 40% off, which is dos&d40 and Mitch Dowd or Russell Athletic. And then to top it all off, Dos, take us home.
We've just got the dos&d Goodie Bag, which Pete's favourite, Fleet Plan Hire Solutions. They love their golf. So they've got you some balls, some tees, a golf towel, golf glove in there as well. So take that home with you. And the actual bag itself, the tote bag, is a nice addition too.
Dos&Ds, yeah.
Loud and proud. But that's just our little way of saying thank you, mate, for joining us on the show. Like we said, we've just been so excited to sit down and meet you and chat with you. And you've entertained us for so many years and inspired us. So we just want to say a big thank you.
No, thank you, Dos&D, and congratulations on building what you've built is incredible. 5 years in, you were telling me off air, first 3 years, nobody was listening, but you stuck at it, and you're building something really special. So I love hearing stories like this. So well done.
Thanks,
Thank
mate.
you. Appreciate it.